All right, you made it to the last lesson in chapter 11, 11.5, and this is on choosing the best measure of center to represent a set of data. So you're going to be looking at when it's best to choose the mean, when it's just best to choose the median, and when it's best to choose the mode to represent the set of data. So at the top here, the key concept has a set of rules. So we'll go over those, and then I'll add some words to it to try to make it clearer. So mean. In general, mean is one of the best ones to choose. Um, the only time you really don't choose it is when there are extreme values. In other words, if you all your numbers are close together except you have one number that's way bigger or way smaller than the rest, you're not going to choose mean in that situation. So you choose mean when there's no extreme values, or another way to look at it is the numbers are close together. Okay. Now you should write those down as well. Now median is kind of like you go with median when you don't go with mean, or you go with mean when you don't go with median. So if there are extreme values, numbers that are really far, much bigger or much smaller, then you choose median. Because median, when you find it, you know how you get rid of the little, big, little, big. It's just going to get rid of that extreme value and it won't affect it. Um, Also, if there are no big gaps in the middle of the numbers, you'll choose median. But the main thing to worry about is if there are extreme values. So, no extreme values, mean. Extreme values, median. And then mode is the one you choose the least. It's when you have many repeated numbers. Now, what I mean by many is if you have a list of numbers, and I would say about half or more are the same, then you choose mode. Okay, so write that down. About half or more numbers are the same. Otherwise, mode doesn't really represent data too well. So, mean, now keep this handy because you're going to need to look at it. There are no extreme values. Median, there are extreme values, so choose it. Mode, half or more of the numbers are the same. About half, doesn't have to be exactly half. All right, so now let's look at some examples and see what you think. In example 1, it says, the table shows the number of medals won by the U.S. Which measure of center best represents the data? Then find the measure of center. So after you choose mean, median, or mode, then you have to find that mean, median, or mode. So we're not looking at the years in this case. We're looking at the number of medals. So we're looking at 112, 101, 97, 103, 110. First off, I like to eliminate mode when I can. So are there even any repeaters? I don't see any repeaters. Now remember, you would want half or more of the numbers to be repeaters to choose mode. So you are not going to choose mode for this because there is no mode. Now, the other thing is, are there extreme values? So when I'm looking at 112, 101, 97, 103, 110, they're all somewhat close to each other. So in this case, I would choose mean. You would choose median if there was one number that was like way bigger or way smaller. Like maybe in 2012, if we won 300 medals, that would be an extreme value. So because the numbers are close together, no extreme values, you would choose mean. And then here's what they did. They added them up, divided by 5, got 104 and 3/5 as the measure of center. Okay, so got it. You choose the best one based on this chart, and then you find it. Now we'll take a look at example 2. In example 2, it says the table shows the water temperature over several days. Which measure of center best represents the data? Then find the measure of center. So I'm looking at my numbers here, 82, 82, 85, 82, 82, 78, 81. Now I'm noticing right here that there are 4 out of the 7 numbers are 82. So the mode would be 82, and about half of the numbers are 82. So this would be one of the situations where you would choose the mode. So if you read down here, in the set of data, there are no extreme values. There is a temperature repeated 4 times. So the mode is 82 is the measure of center that best represents the data. Okay, so now, here is your job. We'll read it first, then we'll talk about it. It says, the prices of several DVDs are blah, 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 and blah. Which measure of center best represents the data? Justify your selection, then find the measure of center. So here's what you're going to do. You're gonna either say mean, median, or mode. Use the table at the top to help you. Then you have to give me at least a sentence why. Maybe you'll say I chose the mean because all the numbers were close together, there's no extreme values, and there's no mode or something like that. And then whatever you choose, mean, median, or mode, you find that. I will give you a hint. Sometimes there's more than one answer I will take. So I want you to do A, pause the video, give it your best shot, and then restart it when you're ready. Okay, go ahead. All right, so here's what I look for first. I look to see if there are any repeaters. So I'm looking at 2250, 2195, 25, 2195. All right, so I at least see two repeaters, 1995, 2195. Okay, so I noticed there are only 7 numbers, and 3 of them are the same. And I know 3 is a little less than half of 7, but it's about half. So in this case, I would choose mode. My reason is going to be because about half of the numbers are 2195, which is the mode. So I think it best represents the answer. And then I know what the mode is. So I'm going to pause it and write that down. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so I just wrote down the answer. I said mode. 3 out of 7 values are $21.95, which is the mode, so it best represents the data. So I chose my measure of center. I explained why. Said 3 out of 7 were that, and I found it, which is $21.95. Now, don't start erasing if you didn't have mode, because you could also argue the mean. You could say, you know what, the numbers are pretty close together and there aren't any extreme values. And if you said mean because the numbers are close together, there's no extreme values, and you found the mean, whatever it is, then I would accept that as well. The only one I would not take is median. And the reason is, if you look up here what we wrote for median, median says the data have extreme values. Okay? So, there are no extreme values. They're close together. So that's the only one you would not choose. All right. Next page. Now, here's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about how outliers affect the different measures of center. So, let's take a look at the examples to see what we're talking about. Example 3 says the table shows average lifespans of some animals. Identify the outlier in the data set. Now, when you look at these ages, you can kind of see the outlier. It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. It's 200. So without going through the steps to find an outlier, we're going to say it's 200. Now in 4, it says determine how the outlier affects the mean, median, and mode of the data. Now this is the fun one. You have to find the mean, median, and mode with the outlier, and the mean, median, and mode without the outlier. So let's talk about this one. Okay, first off, for mean, with the outlier, you have to add all the numbers and divide by 7. And you get about 62. You get a crappy decimal. Now, without the outlier, you add all the numbers except 200. So you add these 6 numbers and divide by 6, and you get about 39. As you can see, the mean was affected a lot by that outlier. That 200 really pulled up the average quite a bit. Now, the median, when you put the numbers in least to greatest order and cross out little big, 35 is in the middle. Now, that's with the outlier. Without the outlier, when you take that 200 out and you get to the middle, you have to add the 2 middle numbers and divide by 2. You get 32.5. As you can see, the median didn't change that much. And last, the mode is 30. Well, there are 2 30s no matter what, so the mode wasn't affected. So here's how you would answer that question. After you find those answers, it's a lot of work. Think of it. 6 things you got to do. Then you got to say what happened. The mean lifespan decreased by 62 minus 39, or 23 years. The median lifespan decreased by 35 minus 32.5, or 2.5 years. The mode did not change. So basically, they subtracted mean minus mean, median minus median, and mode minus mode. Didn't change to say how much they changed. So that's what you got to do in that example. Now 5 is where you do some thinking. 5 says, which measure of center best describes the data with and without the outlier? Now, here is the thing. You don't want the measure of center to change a whole lot. So, because the mean changed a ton to go from 62 to 39, you would not choose the mean in this situation. So, it says that here, the mean was affected the most. The median lifespan changed very little with and without the outlier, so it best describes the data in both cases. So the median only dropped 2.5. So that's why they're saying that's the best measure of center. Why not the mode? Well, the mode doesn't describe the data very well since there are only 2 repeated numbers. Remember, to choose mode, you want at least about half of the numbers to be the same. So that's why they went with median. It didn't change a whole lot. You don't want to go with the one that changes a whole lot because that means the outlier affects it. Right, last page. Now you're going to do B, C, and D with me because when you're done, I know you're going to be doing the ones down here by yourself. So we're going to kind of take you with this. So this says the prices of some new athletic shoes are shown in the table. Identify the outlier in the data set. Now we'll give you that one. We're not going to make you go through the steps. If you look here, this is the outlier. It's the one that changes. It's way bigger than the other ones. Okay, so B, you could write that one down, is 78.95. Now, C says determine how the outlier affects the mean, median, and mode of the data. So here's what you're going to do for C in a second. You are going to have to find the mean, median, and mode. So we'll get a chart set up here. So mean, median, mode. Now, you're going to have to do that with the outlier and without the outlier. So we'll get our table set up. So just to tell you before you start, for mean, with the outlier, you have to add up all the numbers and divide by 7. Without the outlier, you have to add up all of these numbers. Don't add up the 78.95 and divide by 6. You're going to have to probably round it so it looks like money, round to the nearest hundredths place. Median, you're going to have to put them in least to greatest order. You're going to have to do it with 78.95, and you're going to have to do it without 78.95. And then mode, you're going to have to choose the mode. That one's the easy one, with and without the 78.95. All right, so I want you to it's going to take you a couple minutes, so do problem C, and when you're done, restart it, and I'm going to go over it. Go ahead. Okay, so were you able to do it? Did you figure out your answers? All right, well, let's see, because I haven't figured out. So with the outlier, I added up all 7 numbers, and they added up to 366.3. And then I divided by 7, and I got 52. It was like 52.328 something, and that rounded to 52.33. So that means with the outlier, the mean is $52.33. Now without the outlier, I added up all of the numbers except the 78.95, and they added up to 287.35. And then I divided by 6 because I only added up 6 numbers. Don't divide by 7. And I got $47.89. So without the outlier, it's $47.89. Okay, now the next one is going to be median, finding the middle number. So I have all the 7 numbers in least to greatest order. So when I cross out little big, there's going to be one in the middle. So when the outlier is there, 48.50 is the median. Now without the outlier, get rid of those red lines. Now, let me get rid of that 78.95. I can't get rid of it. Never mind. Okay, I tried. So I'll just exit out. there's only 6 numbers. And when I get rid of little big, there's going to be 2 in the middle because now there's even. Okay. So 4750 and 4850 are in the middle. If you add those up, they add up to 96. And divide by 2, you get $48 even. So the median only changed by 50 cents. Now the mode, looking for any repeaters. So I'm going through, and I see no repeaters either way. So no matter what, there is no mode. Now to answer problem C, you could do this one with me. It says determine how the outlier affects the mean, median, and mode. So this is what I'm going to do. First off, I'm going to subtract each of these numbers. So 52.33 minus 47.89. If you subtract that, you get $4.44. So I would say the mean went down $4.44. So we'll write that down. Okay, now the median, if you subtract 48.50 minus 48, only went down 50 cents. And for mode, well, there is no mode. So when they ask you how the outlier affects it, just kind of subtract the biggest one minus the smallest one and see how much it changed. So in this case, we see the mean changed the most without the outlier. The median only changed 50 cents and there was no mode. Now the last question says, tell which measure of center best describes the data with and without the outlier. So here's what you got to know. You don't want the data to change that much. So first off, we can eliminate mode because there is no mode. Second, because the mean changed so much, we're not going to go with mean as the best measure of center. So in this case, the median, because it only changed a little bit, it only changed by 50 cents, the median would be the best measure of center. So I'll pause it and I'll write that down. Okay, so I said the median is best because it only changed by 50 cents without the outlier. So I hope you understand how to answer these questions here, because in a second you are going to be doing problem 1 below and you're going to use this one as a model. So if you have any other questions, make sure you ask me in class. Thank you guys.